Welcome back to the third session in our module on preaching skills. We're exploring 20 principles for how we can become a more effective and compelling preacher. Last time we looked at a further 8 keys. Number 6, humor. Number 7, establishing rapport with people. Number 8, speak as if to a single person. Number 9, use simple language. Number 10, eye contact. Number 11, duration of the sermon. Number 12, modulation. And number 13, articulation. In this session, we'll cover a further 6. Number 14, rate of utterance. A 14th skill in effective speaking is to intentionally develop different speaking speeds for effect. Your rate of speaking is a factor in maintaining interest and attention while preaching. Therefore, plan the speed of different sections of your sermon to enhance the particular emphasis you are seeking to make. At times, slow, deliberate expression is an effective technique, whereas at other times it could be faster and more authoritative and demonstrative. Number 15, volume, intensity, and force. As with the rate of speaking, varying our volume, intensity, and force is a great technique for making the essential points or transitions in the sermon. Be vibrant in your communication and seek to be engaging. Regularly critique yourself or invite critiquing from an experienced preacher to ensure variety in volume, intensity, and force. Number 16, pause. An often overlooked and undervalued skill is the use of a pause. A pause, as the word suggests, is a deliberate break in the flow of your preaching used to build anticipation or effect. The type of pausing I'm referring to are those used for dramatic purposes. The technique is to build up your pace, pitch, and volume as you deliver a key sentence and then stop speaking, pause, while maintaining eye contact with the congregation. And after a few seconds of silence have elapsed, launch into your next line. Those who write about speaking skills often say that using pauses in front of a live audience is a profoundly difficult thing to do. It requires confidence. Why? Because you are required to stop speaking, stare into a sea of eyes, all of which are staring back at you, and do no more than stand there. And the pressure to continue speaking is almost unbearable, and it takes a seasoned speaker to resist rushing on. Pauses can be employed in a number of different ways. And here are a few examples of sentences showing where you might place a pause. I want to speak to you tonight about the number one problem in churches. Pause. Unforgiveness. There are 3 things that you need to know about how to resist the devil. Have a pause to cause expectation. And the first of these is, and away you go. Will you take up the challenge? And again, have a pause because it's a hypothetical question to give the audience time to think. Or, and that's when I reached out and turned the chair around and discovered who it was. And then pause to build up eagerness. It was such and such. Pauses are effective after an open question, a series of clauses, a very personal illustration, a pertinent point, or just before you utter a significant word or phrase. You can even use pauses mid-sentence if you want to emphasize a specific word. And the longer you pause, the more profound your point will seem. And if you really want your hearers to take something in as important, take a longer pause. Pauses have the additional benefit of allowing you time to think, maybe to construct your next sentence or to clarify your thoughts. Please enable your hearers to ponder the importance of what you're saying through the use of a pause. If you're unaccustomed to using pauses, write them into your sermon notes. Use pauses confidently and strategically. They will enhance your preaching and give you more time to think. Number 17, posture, stance, gestures, that is our body language. Our communication as preachers is not just with our voice. Non-verbal communication is a powerful tool to convey our message. People listen to the preacher's voice, but they also watch the preacher's body language. Posture, stance, and gestures need to be planned. Learn the art of using gestures. Use your stance and gestures to emphasize key points. Some speakers even plan and rehearse the telling of key stories and intentionally stand in different parts of the platform to make the point. John Wesley once said to a group of preachers, "Take care of anything awkward or affected, either in your gesture, phrase, or pronunciation." This is why it is recommended that you get an experienced preacher to critique you or watch your preaching on video and then provide constructive feedback. Here are some body language taboos. Don't put your hands in your pockets. It conveys arrogance, disinterest, or disrespect. Don't pace up and down, but take deliberate, intentional steps. And don't rock in the pulpit, and don't stay in the same place for the whole 30 minutes unless there's no choice. In short, be intentional about how you communicate non-verbally. Number 18, be accessible and approachable after you've preached. An 18th key for effective communication is to be accessible, available, and approachable after you've brought the word of the Lord. This may not be possible or practical in some bigger churches or contexts, for example, a conference, but generally speaking, being accessible demonstrates that you want to identify with people and it helps people to relate to you. In some places, there can be a mystique about preachers, but being available and approachable humanizes you and your message. This will make what you have said far more meaningful. And here are a few common reasons why people like to interact with the preacher. People may want to come and express their appreciation for the message. Others may want to come and encourage you. Some may have questions about a point you've made and need clarification. Occasionally, someone may take exception to what you've said and need to talk it through. Others may have their lives deeply touched and they just want someone to pray with them. So be accessible and approachable. Number 19, study the lives and ministries of effective preachers. As the old adage goes, some things are taught and some things are caught. You can learn a lot from seasoned and successful and effective preachers. And as you study their lives, their ministry development, style and context, you'll find yourself learning invaluable lessons which you can apply to your own ministry. This step begins with identifying preachers, both dead and alive, who provide a model for your own ministry. If they are alive, observe them. Watch their preaching online or podcast, read their writing, and if possible, ask them for mentoring, coaching, or as a minimum, make an appointment at which you can ask questions. If they've died, read their biographies or autobiographies, read transcripts of their sermons, or if they're recorded, listen to their messages. You'll probably find yourself drawn to particular styles of preaching and preachers. This is normally because your style will be very similar. And here are some things to look for: how they step into the pulpit, how they build rapport with the congregation, how they introduce their sermon, how they craft and structure their sermon, how they tell their stories and use humor, how they communicate, how they conclude their sermon, how they interact with people after the service, how they conduct themselves out of the pulpit, and how they conduct their marriage and family. Well, that's the end of this session. You'll notice we only have point number 20 left, and it's a really important one. Without this last factor, our preaching will lack power and impact. And also, we'll have a look at some non-verbal communication skills next time. See you then. God bless.